Welcome to the E-Course Builder Podcast, a podcast for e-course designers and teachers who want to build courses online that produce authentic learning and engaging experiences. I'm your host, Alex Rosen. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the inaugural show of the E-Course Builder Podcast. My name is Alex Rosen, self-proclaimed technology and online learning nerd. Over the past decade plus, I've been in the educational technology and online course realm. I'm currently working as a digital coach and success manager collaborating with faculty in the higher education space, not only to implement courseware, but also achieve amazing results for their students. I've helped set up the instructional design for hundreds of online courses and worked across about every learning management system known to mankind: Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Brightspace, Jinzabar, Sakai, Schoology, Classiflassifology. You name it, and I've had to learn it and build in it. I decided to start this podcast not only to share all the amazing lessons, tips, and tricks I've learned for building courses online, but also to put a spotlight on other e-course builders and learn from them as well. So while many podcast episodes will be just me as your guide to this new frontier in education, expect some interviews with instructional designers, teachers, and even learning designers from the corporate world. Throughout the course of the show, you'll see topics falling into 4 categories: plan, tools, build, and teach, or PTBT. That's a pretentious acronym that I just made up. But that is a genuine and systematic process to follow when building and executing an online course. Let's break down each of those so you can have an idea of where this podcast journey is going. Plan. Any good plan starts with a blueprint. Houses have them as a guideline, so why shouldn't courses? Here's just a small taste of what we'll get into in future episodes when it comes to the plan area. Now, you might craft that blueprint with a backward design intent, or crafting with your learning objectives in mind, and working backward to see what learning touchpoints and assessments would work best to accomplish these objectives. This has become synonymous with a UBD, Understanding by Design, framework, and we'll get into that methodology. But there are other considerations we'll touch on, like who is your ideal student avatar? In entrepreneurship and business, they have an ideal client avatar, who is a picture-perfect customer that one might envision when selling a product or service. But certainly, it's important to factor in your mind who your typical student might be. This is not to exclude a particular group, but more to help you shape how you might facilitate learning. Then there is the structure of the course, the skeleton of the design. Is it outlined in modules, chapters, units, weeks? And finally, another important aspect of planning is being an editor and paring down your content. There's your core need-to-know content, and then there's going to be things that are just nice to cover topics. Tools. So once you have your plan in place, you need to pick out what tools you need to accomplish your course. Imagine walking into a home improvement store with a specific checklist in mind for your DIY project. For our purposes, expect upcoming episodes to spotlight the latest and greatest educational softwares for you to use, whether free or paid. I'll not only provide reviews and recommendations, but also some tips on making the best use of digital tools. For example, learning management systems. Now, some things might be supplied or required for your use, like an LMS or platform, particularly if you're teaching at a higher education institution. But if you're independent and you're just a solo course builder, that can certainly be a choice for you to consider. Assessment software. How are you conducting your assessment touchpoints? Are you using quizzes, scenarios, file uploads? Then there's simulations. These have become more commonplace as software technologies have allowed us to simulate real-world experiences. Audio-visual and media solutions along that same route, what are the best mics and the webcams? Video and audio recording softwares. You're going to have a lot of digital native students that are more AV-oriented, so these are things to consider. Even social media. Now, don't get me started on this, but there are some real opportunities on what many educators see as the bane of their existence. Build. So, you've gathered up all your tools. Well, now you have to start your building. You're picking up a digital hammer or your mouse, and you're actually building your online course. So we'll delve into some very specific processes with things like building with Bloom's taxonomy of learning in mind. The rule of 3 clicks in navigation. I'm hoping to sound very mysterious here. How to cascade content from your learning objectives. Considering accreditation. Online templates for instructional design like Quality Matters. Student privacy consideration, ADA compliance. I'm not flexing a bunch of education jargon just for the sake of it, and I'm certainly not wanting to overwhelm anyone, but the more skilled and knowledgeable you become on these things when you're building, the more second nature it will become. And then there's the fun part, teach. After building your course, you have to teach from the content you have built. In a world where there's synchronous and asynchronous instruction, where it's happening either live and in person, or it's happening in a more automated way, actually teaching still has to be the heart and core of everything you work toward. This is the door to the house you've built, and you're letting in your learners not only as guests, but as residents for however long the class runs. They are a part of a community you're building, and you want that community to be active and vibrant. So for teaching, we'll look at things like onboarding your class, digital whiteboard teaching, live polling, even rewards and trophies that help to uplift your student accomplishments, feedback and remediation, when and how to provide that, and finding and using online classroom advocates to serve as your point person students. So those are just a few items that you'll be learning about in the many weeks to come on the podcast. All from that plan, tools, build, teach model. Keep posted for my episode next week where I'll cover an important item in the plan category, backward design, or the UBD framework. Until then, I'll leave you with this thought. True learning happens when the learner is empowered to turn on their own light bulb, not when you flip the switch for them. I'll see you on the next episode.